Hello YouTube, we're going to be looking at some Peglin today. Some of you may know me as Legit Gopnik, some of you may know me as the keeper of the spreadsheet. Peglin's a game that I've been playing for a long time. I got into it way back in 2022. I've watched a lot of content on Peglin, shout out to Andolono, fantastic creator. I've have a lot of thoughts watching his content that I wish to share, so this can be considered as my manifesto. Unfortunately, my progress in the game has not been documented as extensively as his has, so you'll just have to take my word that I know what I'm talking about. I'd like to play my favorite character, the Spinventor. I think he's actually one of the more underrated characters and overbuffed and over-tweaked characters. I think a lot of his stuff is really powerful. The slime build is excellent. It's fantastic. So I'm gonna be sharing a lot of tips and tricks that I've developed as the Spinventor with my beloved peg buffing sliming build. Between these three starting relics, refresh tech is pretty important, but reloading is a little sketch. Grabby hand is nice for bats, but not much else. But molten gold, this is the best place to get molten gold. It can definitely net you easily an extra couple upgrades or heals. Always slow down on the map here so you don't look like a dummy figuring out your path. Let's go left, chest elite. That looks like a great start. I play the game a little bit quick on 3x, so hopefully you can still follow along. This bat should die to the bombs here. People have some strong opinions on the splat orb creating this pink slime. I think that people completely forget the fact that when you buff a peg, you can't get your buffing value out of it until you refresh the board. So sliming that peg gives you durability on the peg, making sure that that buff is usable many times in a row. And on top of that, the bounciness. Kinetic energy is currency in Peglin. As much kinetic energy as you can conserve will save you a ton of pain and suffering very quickly. It is a good payoff. Doesn't look like Turbo can sneak the bomb here. We definitely want to fire it off to kill that first log, so I'll clear a path to the refresh. And scroll wheel tech, that looks like it'll bounce exactly where we want it to go. And why don't we go straight towards the pink slime. Get a few good bounces in there. I should be able to rebound that off into the crit. Very nice. And the bomb could finish it off. We'd have to hit 7 pegs after the crit if I wanted to greed for gold, and I think if I bounce it up and to the left, that should actually be enough to kill it. Excellent, and get some more gold, getting molten gold value as soon as possible. I've made some strong statements on the rub orb, and I will stand by every single one of those. I don't care how many runs I have to lose. The rub orb is fantastic. Now, there's two ways to rate items in the game. You could rate at how good they are for helping you win, or you could rate at how fun they are. And I think rub orb is not S tier in either of those categories, but it is easily A tier, so I'm never going to pass it up, especially if I have a good run going. Gunpowder is fantastic, but I don't want to risk missing this elite over it, or missing a tile here. So I reckon I might save up some money at this chest and try to get an extra relic here. That'll be my plan. Rub orb is in a really weird spot, and I've been wanting to share my extensive and deep thoughts on rub orb, which I will continue to do, but first I need to think about this horrible. Do I want to wait for the big green slime 5000 to show up before I detonate the bombs? And I think yes. And I think since Horrible will detonate the bombs, I will skip. But I do want to clear a path down into the bombs. And sometimes you'll set it off on the first shot, but that's fine. So rub orb is weird because the biggest threat and the biggest value in the first floor is getting through as many elites as possible. So elites are kind of what you should be focusing on. And the rub orb actually kind of fails. It disappoints on 4 of the 5 elites' pegboards. So let's think about the ones with power slides. The Manitor, the rub orb doesn't really respect the power slide. The 2 tree stumps, the rub orb is okay on those. You can bounce it off of the pegs on the left-hand side, but then again, all orbs are pretty good with power slides. Then the green testicle, you want to actually kill your kinetic energy so that your orb gets stuck in the mass and can do maximum damage. So the rub orb doesn't really do well there. And then the 3 plants, you're back to power sliding. So the rub orb is really only decent on this fight. And I think this outcome looks okay to me, because if I can pop this bomb with a Terra Ball, then I'm gonna... Actually, it doesn't matter if I pop the bomb with a Terra Ball, but I like this guy being at 41 because I can get him below 40 and then get some Terra Ball value. I will try to activate the bomb. Okay, it didn't bounce my way, but that's fine. I definitely like the red slime being alive on the reload instead of being hit by the green slime, because it's a very specific interaction. The green slime is one of the only melee enemies that does not attack you from the second position. So if you can be hit by the second to last red slime, you're taking the minimum amount of damage you can on this elite. Haven't really seen anyone talking about that. This is the ideal outcome here. Notice the green didn't attack there. So now I think I want my Splat Orb to maximize how much damage it can do. And I want to try to minimize how much kinetic energy this guy has, so I'm going to try to wedge it all the way deeper down there. You'll start to notice that I'm a very analytical Peglin player. I can't seem to get the crit here, but I think a wall bounce would probably give me the best shot at getting it. That's okay, didn't happen this time. Actually, it didn't matter, because we got him. So now I don't want the rub orb to bounce all the way to the left, so I'll try to hit it to the right, hit it off the ceiling, neutralize some of its energy there, but get it to do a bunch of destruction on the right-hand side. Yeah, that's a pretty decent outcome, I'd say. Okay, now I want to start clearing my way to the refresh. Let me get rid of these 2 left pegs, or sorry, these 2 pegs, hit the left one, and then start clearing over to the right. There we go. Perfect. So the rub orb doesn't do very well on the elites on the first floor. And it's actually interesting because the rub orb, it being a strong single target provider orb, turns out that it's strongest on the second and third floor, especially when some of the pegboards become a little bit more difficult to navigate. Now I might want to sneak off of that crit there. But yeah, unfortunate refresh spot, so I might be reconsidering my take of Molten Gold. But that's okay, we'll just get the sash here and win. Engels McGee did not strike today, but that is totally fine. Aggressive is definitely the most fun to play the game. Early lose means more wins later on. Now, Bombaton is a fantastic start, but it's up against a good slime, and I am very, very partial towards the slime build. I think that most people in this case would take Bombaton, and let's make some good content plays. Let's try to get the slime build off the ground. This pegboard is really fun. I am strongly convinced that this pegboard has a binomial distribution. Every peg, it flips a coin, much like the relic that gives you a 5% chance of turning into a bomb every time you refresh a peg, which means there is a non-zero chance that the entire pegboard is full of bombs, and also a non-zero chance that you have 0 bombs. Usually you'll see maybe between 3 and 5 bombs on this one. So we rolled a little bit low here, so I'm going to wait for the blue slimes to come on the board before going for maximum peg hits. Now I want this horror ball to bounce mostly in the middle, so I don't want to hit this left peg, because then it'll hit left peg, right peg, go left. I'm going to hit the right peg, so it goes right peg, left peg, and goes a little bit to the right, stays near the middle. Looking pretty good. Probably try to push this shot towards the left while also killing the slime in time before he hits me. That looks nice. Now I could take the refresh, or I could take the crit. I think I'll take the refresh because that gives me a decent shot at getting some more gold as well. And one more turn and then we'll start activating bombs. Alright. We didn't get our way with the middle one, but that's fine. Excellent. And green slime dies there. And then these will be left at 20 minus whatever I do to the blue slime. So let's try to keep it towards the center where we could get some gold, some refresh, or neither. This will certainly kill, so I can collect some gold here. And look at that, 5 peg slime, already getting some massive value. Bomb baton enjoyers are not eating well today. And those buffed pegs are just contributing massively. Refurbisher has actually been buffed. It no longer deals 0 damage. And I might consider it if it wasn't up against Two's Company. I am a big fan of Two's Company, and especially with this, every Two's Company peg becomes a plus 10. And my favorite thing about Two's Company is, and the slime peg upgrade build has 2 ways you could take it. You could go to kind of broadly upgrading most of the pegs on the board, but the more interesting way to take it is to pick one peg and make it a super peg and keep focusing on that peg. And on level 3, Two's Company will apply slime to the first peg hit, which is a relatively rare effect as far as slime applying orbs go. I think this might be the only slime orb that even has that power available to slime the first peg you hit. Now I think here the only risk of us going the wrong way is if we bounce off the wall and off of this middle peg. So I think I can make sure that that doesn't happen. But the non-roundness of the pegs here might not play in my favor. Okay. I was really worried about that purple slime sending me to hell. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Extra crit damage. Complex Claw is a fantastic relic. Now here I probably want to go right, because I don't really have enough money for the shop here. But I wouldn't be entirely opposed to grab the question mark and then have the option to go to the shop after that, in case we get a bunch of gold. We did not. But fireballs against Leshy are a fantastic take. They won't get Spin Vent originality, but I can always remove one of them. Huh. It's a little bit late for this fight, but we got a slime bat to compensate. But Rainbow Slime is really nice, especially if I could get a nice high damage crit shot on it. So I think I'm gonna go for a high roll, considering the refresh is also in a good spot. So I will go for the maximum damage I can get. And people will be scared of this 2 self-damage on the Inferno Orb, or on the Bramble, or even on the Offer Ring, but you gotta keep in mind that the enemies will always deal way more damage to you than you'll deal to yourself. So self-damage builds in this game, I personally rate them very highly. We could kill the Rainbow Slime for a bunch of gold with Splat Orb, because we're looking like a guaranteed crit there. And if we don't, it will already pass this green slime. Maybe. Actually, I think it will move one at a time. It won't pass the green slime, and then we'll get an Inferno Orb shot. If we go Horrible shot, that probably won't quite get 75, because that looks about 25. It'll get close to 75, but it might not roll all the way. I think, no, it'll take one step. So we'll get a shot at it with Inferno Orb. So we'll skip, and we'll hit the bat, and we'll definitely kill the bat. And we'll get some upgraded pegs. And now we can take our Inferno Orb shot. Now this pink slime should bounce us all the way over to the right, so I think we'll go off to the right. I'll have a clear shot at the refresh later. But I think because of that, with a 4 peg pebble, we won't get 138. So I will hit another fireball here. Okay, it didn't quite bounce us to the right, but no, perfect. Fantastic. And this pegboard, I really like that you can collect all the gold on it really effectively. And I think I will keep hitting this pink slime. +5. Do not underestimate it, especially when it does a double bounce like that. You absolutely love to see it. Now this guy is really low, so this is a good time to refresh. And I could try to get this refresh to go down into the middle mass, but I'll actually try to knock it around the left-hand side because we only need to hit 5 more pegs to get this green slime out of the way, so I'll try to get a little high angle on it, and then it should easily... Yes! Okay, that looks great. That's funny. 2 gold in a slime peg, you only get 1 gold if you don't destroy the peg. 2's company is going to give us some good value, but I don't want to reload any faster than I have to. And an important technique in this game is on pegboards where the refresh can go into Narnia, which on this one is very common, you want to conserve your refresh and take suboptimal shots. This roll should come a little bit short of the refresh. And you're still dealing fantastic damage. Here, I think I'll use the fact that these brick pegs will kill your momentum a little bit, and I'll try to get a bounce that'll hit the refresh. That was really close. Still got a little orange slime, so that's nice. This should be an easy bounce straight into the refresh, and get some slime value, and we'll be able to kill him. Horrible, no problem, especially when we have a likely crit here, but almost certainly hitting the refresh. I said horrible, I meant terrible. That also works. Totally not how I chalked it up, but we'll take it. Okay, we have a few decisions to make now. We'll definitely go right. We don't want 2's company. Duplicate orb is a consideration, but generally speaking, if your refresh doesn't come where you want it to come early, then that doesn't really help. Crit-a-ball we could also consider with Complex Claw. Creating more crits is always a good idea. Spinventor generally benefits from crits. And we're in the market to remove an Infernorb, which we don't have a guaranteed way of doing. And we're probably not looking to heal. I don't want my 2's company to go back down to a 1-3, but I do love double damage slime. I think for the position I'm in, everything benefits massively from crits. Crit-a-ball is a fantastic take. I think that this will help us make sure that we have our single damage locked down. Now, considering a good slime, see, Crit-a-ball does help a lot to get to level 2 because we're guaranteed a temporary crit. Double damage slime is great to get to level 3. So I think since this is a better level 2, we'll take this one to 2, and then we'll get 2's company to level 3. And we'll carry on with a minor amount of greed. Looking good. This pegboard people hate. All you gotta do is wait for a big mass of pegs to go to one side of the board, and just send it straight into that mass. Maybe not in the exact way that I sent it. I'll be a little bit more patient. Definitely want to get this bat down now that the slime is low. Unless you have an Infernorb and you can hit a guaranteed bomb. Now the Terrible, I don't think I need to fire. Because our sack is getting fairly big, so I'm not scared of reloading anymore. Yeah, I definitely didn't mean to click that blue slime. But that bomb looks pretty nice. Yep, double bounce. Exactly according to plan. And the bat should get to me first. Plus these guys would die to a bomb. And the horror ball looks great here because I can collect gold and get some bombs. Hold the bombs. For now. Until now. There we go. I think a decent gold shot is in order here because we have an activated bomb. So we can be fairly confident that we'll get the bomb soon. And considering that the bat is dead and we only need to deal 12, more gold is still on the table. But now it's looking like a bomb would definitely be in the best benefit here. They do stack, which is really funny. The devs coded this fight in a really interesting way, but it's all very chaotic, and that's not just a figure of speech. That is a mathematical term. This is chaos theory. So the bombs will always separate. It's very entertaining, this pegboard. It really is one of my favorite pegboards. It's completely unique. It's the only moving pegboard anywhere in the forest. And this is another great argument to have the game on 3x speed. Keep in mind, first peg I hit will become durable. Actually, not even durable. It'll become unhittable. An early assemble section is enticing. However, I have already taken 5 new orbs. So I can't really commit to the assemble. So this elite I am going to struggle with on group damage. My only source of AoE is the Inferno orbs maybe hitting bombs. But my hope is that Two's Company and maybe hopefully Best Foot 4 orbs sometime soon is going to be giving me enough targeted damage, single target damage specifically, but also targeted damage from the foot, that might be able to offset it. Now this is a fantastic option. The only problem with going down the middle is when you send it into the center, it likes to take one of these straight line paths off to the sides. So it might be best to try to pick your battles and go towards the orb you might consider, and I don't want to debuff the 2s, so I'll try to send it straight down here and hope that it wiggles down to the summoning circle. Fate does not go your way sometimes, even when you need it most. And this isn't terrible, because I already have so many upgrades that I need to make. So I'm totally fine with that. And we got pretty lucky that it was a question mark that had only one exit. This plant fight, I have a lot of strong opinions on, because people seem to play it in non-optimal ways very, very often. This one, it seems relatively clear to me that you should be, first of all, saving this refresh as long as you can, and then second of all, taking the path first, this left one, because this left one will open up this wall, or actually utilize this wall before it gets opened up. If you take the middle or the right before that, you're going to open these 3 pegs, and when you take the left one, you're missing these 6 pegs and hitting this bomb. So you always want to start with this left one. And then, if you look at which of these is best to take first, well, if you take the middle one first, you're going to open up most of this. The bomb will probably bounce you straight up, and then the right one's kind of pooped. So you want to take the right one first, and then the middle one will bounce you over to the right-hand side. And you're going to clear 90% of the brick pegs on this board, and then you can start looking for the refresh. But speaking of the refresh, this fight is probably the worst fight in the forest, because there's so many pegs that are below this top level of pegs and the bricks, where the refresh can go and really screw you over. So if you get hasty and you think, oh, let me just take this big power slide with all the pegs on the left-hand side, well, the refresh is right there. So I'm actually going to skip this as my number 1 shot and take my number 2 shot as my number 1 shot. And at the same time activate the bomb down there. And this one's a little tricky because if I shoot it too low, it'll bounce down here and up and over. So I want to shoot it directly here and get it to rattle around horizontally. Just like that. Okay. That's a tricky shot to make with a light orb like the Inferno orb. Now I'll take my middle shot, and I'll probably take it to the right because there's a little more gold that way. And didn't quite all the way make the slide. And now we get our refresh. And actually now is a great time to use the single target damage of the Splat Orb and try to get it to hit the crit. It'll slime the 5th one, so that's not a big concern that it'll bounce out. Perfect. And there's our refresh, and there's our kill. Now our next refresh is in a slightly tricky spot, but that's okay, because we're going to try to maximize how many pegs we can hit before we start going for the refresh. The crit doesn't look very likely here for me to get a good bounce, because hitting this crit leaves it kind of open to sliding down the right-hand side, unless I can get a good shot this way. I think I'll risk it because we're in a tight spot and the crit is such a big benefit. Excellent. Now we'll take our peg damage in the middle and this one piece of gold. There's the bounce I was looking for. And the Terra Ball might be a pretty nice benefit here. I could get a little greedy and go for a crazy little bounce shot here. I think I will, because I think even if I don't knock this brick out, I'll be able to hit it with a normal size orb. So there's a major benefit if I can get the refresh with it. Didn't happen, but that's okay, because looks like I was right on the orb size. And that kills, which is excellent. Now, middle and right are slightly worse than normal, so I'll take left, and with a 1-8, I'm really looking for a kill before the reload. Winning this battle before the reload is always a huge benefit. Here we're in an interesting position, because we're most likely killing, and this plant shouldn't shoot. So I think the size of the Terra Ball and the amount of gold on the left means firing it to the left is a pretty good idea, especially considering the buffed pegs and the crit over there. And now we're at an interesting position, because we could take an advanced foot, and that will help us get our damage up to speed quickly. Or we could take something really fun and interesting that doesn't give us major synergy. And people will hate me for this, but the summoning circle may not be as good as you think it is, for two reasons, and I'm going to go ahead and compare it to Orbicid Reaction. That's the one that sets a path when orb is fired. Next orb fired will fire in that direction with 0x, 0.5x, and 1x force, so that's at level 3. So that orb has 3 benefits above the summoning circle, while also being a rare orb. The first is that you don't drill the same direction with 3 shots, which the summoning circle does. In most cases, spreading out your multi-balls is a good idea. Metri Orbshka users will agree with me for sure. The second benefit is it fires 4 multi-balls instead of 3. And the third one, and this is the biggest one, is that you can discard on the Orbicid Reaction. And when you discard, you can choose 2 orbs to choose, to fire. You can choose from 2 orbs to fire instead of 1. And that's the biggest reason. Now, I will admit the summoning circle can chain summoning circles and shoot 9 orbs, which is really fun and really crazy. But I'm not super inclined on taking a level 1, especially when I haven't really set up the Two's Company foot synergy yet. So I definitely will take the foot here. And okay. The sash I really, really love. And considering my deck size, the Shrewd Scales I'll probably pass up on. Sometimes I'll say deck size. I play a ton of Balatro. Love that game. Here, I should be able to get this to bounce through this gap. Unicorn Horn would be great here. And when I find Unicorn Horn, I'll give my lecture on that too. But in the meantime, the Sash of Focus. Some people think you have the best control over it when you can pop it using navigation. The problem with that is navigation happens after your healing option. Terra Ball Sync, that's a great option actually. This is a scary event when you have a thick sack, because sometimes you might get an orb removal that's all 3 are good orbs, so we almost got unlucky there. This one's a little awkward. Usually firing it in this type of direction can help, because it'll bounce off the right side. This navigation's a little scary. I think I'll actually try to apply this theory. I haven't really developed this theory entirely yet, but if you shoot it straight down slightly towards the direction you want to go, it'll hit left peg, right peg, out the left side. Didn't work, but that's okay. This might actually be in our favor. This event is a little bit difficult to justify with the Spinventor. but let's give it a try. And I'm okay with losing some extra health here, because when it comes to popping the sash, the best way to do it is to get a fight down to one enemy, while at the same time... Okay, that works. Actually, that's really nice. Extra crit, fantastic. Is to get a fight down to the last enemy and control that fight. Control his fate. Hold your hand down on his neck. And just when the sash pops, you use that chance to end the fight. That's definitely the best way to use the sash, because immediately after that ends, you can heal off of your sash, and the healing goes at minimum double, but the sash's benefit can't be quantified in that way because of the way that rounding damage works in Peglin. So 1 damage shots just get rounded to, well, they get cut in half to 0.5, rounded to 0. 2 damage shots become 1, that's fair. 3 damage shots get to 1.5 and become 1. So its benefit is at least double, could be triple, could be nearly infinite if all your incoming damage comes in ones, like with the dragon or with old spiders. But the point is that the healing is at least doubled, and then every healing you do after that is doubled. Now the problem with that is if I'm at 27, I have the chance to heal 14, which off of like between 0 and optimally 9, the most damage these guys could do to take me out, but not really because one of them would have to be alive, so essentially 5. I would get back to 14 to 19, which is, I suppose, better. So, and plus, I'm probably taking damage on this fight anyway because I don't have that much peg buffing for this power slide. Let's see what we can do with the sash. Same thing with the refresh on this fight, just like the plants. Save it as long as humanly possible. You can take a shot here, get the left side of the board, take a shot with the right side of the board. I will skip the horror ball even though its stats are better than usual. The bomb is nice here. And before I forget, I'll always target this back guy. Sometimes I have just a random relic that I didn't even think about, like Molten Mantle or something that gives me a little bit of extra damage on the back guy. Now we're in a great spot to refresh the board. Unfortunately, targeted orb is at the back. Front guy is dying before then, so this won't entirely matter. And I could go for more damage, or I could try to bank it for the bombs. And if the Inferno Orb wasn't light, it would definitely have enough curve to its path to make it down there and hit at least 1. Because of the lightness, it doesn't quite look like it'll be easy to line up. If I had the Unicorn Horn, I'd be able to see where it would hit the wall, and then it would be much easier to line up. But in this case, I reckon I will take the refresh, but maybe a little bomb as a snack before I go. Extra crits on the power slide are a little bit nice, but more nice than that is just the fact of 8 damage per peg on the crit damage. Now is a decision of whether or not to take the refresh. And I think the bomb here would be relatively helpful because it gives us a chance of dealing 38 damage on this guy. Very close, and that's okay. And in this case, hitting bombs doesn't do much anyway, but I do want 2's company on the big power slide instead of on the unpredictable pegs here. And this should grab this little mini slide, but I won't risk it, so I'll just take a dorky bounce with a guaranteed refresh. That looks nice, and now we'll go here. I'll save this temporary crit because we're getting one anyway. And that is a healthy amount of damage. And now we're looking for a way to get to this refresh. And I think there isn't a safe way to do it. But if I hit this left peg first, that gives me a decent chance of bouncing it farther left again. So let's get that scroll wheel tech and bounce it straight into the ground. The sash is torn, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the finish line. Let's see if we can clutch it up and get that heal through. And now we'll take half damage. And now this is it. This is the end of the line. The crit doesn't matter here, but 173 damage does. And I will actually hit these pegs because I want to get a few extra pegs down here and up here. If you slow down your orb before it goes into this slide, it won't skip over these 3 pegs like it always does if you grab the first one. It'll actually hit them. Just don't slow it down too much, but this should be fine. Hit every single peg, kill the log, get our heal before the boss with the Torn Sash. If we can survive Leshy here, we're definitely looking like we're in a very good position. And with 2 fireballs, our gardening tech should be okay. Gardening on Leshy is usually not a significant problem. The refresh tech might be welcome here. I love pumpkin pie and I love numbers, but Leshy sends out a lot of tanglers at you, and if we can get through those tanglers and get refreshes out of them, we're actually looking like in a pretty good position here. The gardening on Leshy is generally speaking tolerable even without Leshy tech, because Leshy creates 2 vines every other turn. So all you need to do is maintain a rate of killing 1 vine per shot, so you only end up falling behind really on the reloads. I'll save Infernorb here for the first couple vines, and I'll pop this bomb. Infernorb you don't really need for these early bombs, but it helps a lot for the later bombs. This is a bit of an easy gardening, and I won't magically use the Infernorb because I can guarantee a nice crit with it here. So I'll scroll it right into that position, get it to go to the left, and pop the other vine to boot. Great start, looking like in a good position. The sash, remember, will protect us from getting orbs into vines. 1 damage rounds down from 0.5 to 0. And a guaranteed crit gives us good damage. We could either take it into the log. I meant to target the log there, just for proof of concept, but that was actually still a decent shot. But I wanted a chance. That was still what I wanted to do, because I wanted a chance to kill the log with a pebble and get a good shot with a splat orb. And now you'll start to see what I mean both with the gardening and with why I appreciate the unicorn horn so much, is that you can usually make a 1 bounce shot off into a brambled peg and clear it relatively consistently, although to be fair, these guys are near the top, so Leshy tech is pretty important. But the reason the unicorn horn is so valuable is because without it you can make a 1 peg bounce, a 1 peg rebound, but with it and the scroll wheel tech, why it's much better than the arrow tech, that's arrows and this is scroll wheel, you can barely see it moving, so the unicorn horn lets you do it on 2 rebounds. So here, this should give us a pretty good chance at killing the log. And thank you very much, Torn Sash, for protecting me there. Now the Horriball, dealing 2-3, is actually a fantastic brambled peg to save for a really high damage per peg orb. So I'm gonna get this guy locked into the bramble, especially considering it won't hurt me at all, and save his peg damage for when I can pop it with a good orb. Hit the upgraded peg twice, just for a little souvenir. Now this into the bomb is gonna kill the log, and hopefully kill the brambler if it does more than 5 damage, give us a refresh, and then on the next shot I'll be able to hit the Infernorb, and I'm really looking for a crit, one of our 2 crits on the Infernorb, and that should give us some great value on the big ball there. Clear some lower brambles on it. Fantastic. So here, I don't have a good way of hitting the crit and ripping this bramble. And since this is a 5 and this is a 7 on the crit, I'm not super worried about doing it immediately right now. So I think I will hit the crit. And as always, the first peg you hit, after the second rebound, it'll tend to go in the direction of the first peg. So you hit the right peg, so you kind of try to get it to go right. It almost got there, and that is okay, because now we're in a great spot. We can activate this. It'll probably trickle down and hit those crits over there, and I just want my Two's Company to upgrade as many pegs as I can. So I'll try to get it to go straight up, give or take. We didn't get as much as we wanted, but that's okay. Let's just hope that the best foot forward can find, one of the brambles can find that crit while we send this guy. Although there is the consideration of upgrading the slimed peg. None of this probably matters because we're probably losing, but the slimed peg upgrading is probably our best choice. So I'll see if I can get it to bounce straight up and then bounce over to the right. Not quite the way I imagined it, but that's still okay. This is probably our big shot, so I'll try to get the bounce to go over to the left. Decent damage, but we're probably dead on the reload. That's quite alright. I hope that was instructive and I shared some of my ideas. I do not claim to be better than anyone else. I simply claim to be a student of the Peglin Forest and Kingdom. And I hope I've made an impact, and I hope I've helped you enjoy the game more and see some things in a new way that you haven't seen before. Thank you very much for watching.